Welcome to Tree Doctors. Today we're traveling throughout the Mid-South with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, and it's all coming up right now on Tree Doctors.
You know, great strides have been made in the chemical community as the technology come available now where you don't need to clumber some capsules to tree, and we can put actually 9 or 10 different products at one time in a tree. You can see it boiling out from around the base of that as I'm injecting this into the soil ball. Amino acids, different miticides, insecticides. We can choose what we want to treat for, and we get a long residual from this. So you get a year's worth of good or longer out of our injection when we do a tree. An actual molt of chemicals put around your tree, and it's all moisture activated. So as the weather hits it or the rain, it supercharges it again and carries through the tree. So to get rid of your unwanted insects or to revive a tree to put new life in it, you know, that's what we do. We put the zap back in the sap. We give new life to old trees. That's what we do. We're the Tree Doctors. Dickey Tree Service in your yellow pages under trees.
Let's go out in the field with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, right now on Tree Doctors.
I have a lot of people ask me about these water sprouts on the trunk of a tree. A lot of people call them suckers, but they're water sprouts and you need to handle them before they get too big. You can use a little bow saw, a little set of pruners, or in this case I'm using a little banana saw. And the only difference between this and a hand saw is this saw cuts when you pull. So it makes it a little easier for someone to cut a branch. It was originally designed for the people who trim trees years ago to carry with them before the chainsaws was popular up in the top of a tree. And they cut quite fast and they're handy to have around. So if you get a chance to pick up a banana saw, you'll be glad you did, because it makes pruning pretty easy. But you trim these up to a comfortable height and keep them trimmed that way. This particular tree here is a honey locust, and it's just filled with stickers. There's thorns, in other words, on it. And that's another reason I'm glad I got this banana saw, so them thorns won't stick me. But I'll cut these other couple of limbs here, and you can see how more nicely kept the tree starts looking once you cut these off. And you just go up to a good height and then round up your cuttings and get rid of them. I'll probably end right up here, and that way the tree will look good for a good while. So when you got water sprouts or suckers, keep them cut back. You'll be glad you did. I'm here with John Monroe in Walnut Ridge. And John, you remember when I treated this plum tree for you a few years ago?
Yeah, and it done a good job. Done fantastic.
You remember how many bushel or whatever amount of plums you got off of it that year? The bunch, wasn't it?
Well, I made plum jelly, and I still got 2 cases of it at the house I made from it.
Well, good deal. Another thing, you've got a little present going on in this tree too. With why don't you tell about what's going on in this tree?
Oh, I had a dove, made a nest in it, and she's sitting on some eggs, and I just leave her alone, let her raise her young.
That's the way to do. That's been about 3 years since we treated this, and the tree's still doing good, isn't it?
It's doing fantastic, and you're one of the best men in the country to do stuff like this.
Well, I appreciate that. John had to go over, he was in the National Guard and had to go over and get stationed overseas, and he was gone for a while, and he had me treat that, his wife called me and I treated that pecan tree while he was gone, and it did good too, didn't it, John?
Oh, several bushels of pecans come off that tree. My mother picks them all up. She likes picking them out, and I just give them all to her.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate what you do for our country, and I appreciate what you do with your trees.
Oh, I just say what, I just love trees, and if I have any problem, I call you.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you, John, for talking to us.
Okay.
I showed you earlier about how you cut your water sprouts off of your trees. If it's a young tree like this, you can take just a common pocket knife or a small knife with serrated blade and actually cut these little branches. But what I wanted to show you here is these trees need water and nutrient to survive. Without either one, tree becomes stressed. Then it gets insects and has disease problems. A big, mature, healthy tree will draw up to 50 gallons of water per day, depending on the temperature. So if it either doesn't get enough water or doesn't have the proper nutrients available, a tree's going to get stressed. And like I've told you so many times before, when a tree gets stressed, it has all kind of problems, disease and insects. So kind of watch and keep particularly your younger trees watered throughout the growing season, and feed them in the fall after Thanksgiving. Put a little something in the ground, some fertilizer. You'll be glad you did. I'm here in Jonesboro and got some big old silver maples. People here's got 4 of them, and every one of them's got borer problems. You can see where I can just run my knife in this hole here. And then old black ants, after the borers do their thing, the black ants start living in these galleries and they keep it open. So untreated, this tree's not going to last too long. They've already been picking up limbs every year for several years. But these silver maples are notorious for having, especially when they get older, borers and ants and other insect problems. But we take care of that all the time. So that's what borers look like on a silver maple. I'm here in Jonesboro, and here with me is Bill Fritz. And Bill, last year you called me in, and why don't you tell the viewers what was going on with your trees then?
Well, we had borers in the trees and the silverleaf poplars and some of our fruit trees in the backyard, and I called you in to treat them for the borers, and you did an excellent job.
Yes, sir. And the reason I'm here with Bill is a couple of trees we didn't treat, and he called me back this spring to do these. And I wanted to point out that you've since done this recently, hadn't you? This build up and with your plants around it.
I did that about 2 or 3 years ago.
That really looks good.
Thank you.
And that's a good way to keep your weed eaters and stuff from hurting your tree and still maintain a good little garden base. You found that too, hadn't you?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Bill has got some a real pretty estate here, and I want to move to the backyard, and he's got a pool closure back there. I've never seen one like it, and I'd like our viewers look at it. Before we move around back, Bill was telling me a little bit of history on this house, and let our viewers know a little bit about this house.
Well, as a realtor with Coldwell Banker Village Communities, I was reading the abstract to get a building permit for the sunroom that we had, and found out in the abstract that the original part of the house was built in 1911 and had 30 acres of farmland, which includes most of Milton Addition.
So this was one of the first houses out here then, wasn't it?
Apparently so.
We're in the backyard with Bill Fritz here in Jonesboro, and what really got me, Bill, is this pool enclosure that you got on there. Tell a little story on that.
Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had the pool enclosure done because with as many trees as we have in the backyard and the good crop of mosquitoes we always have in northeast Arkansas, it makes it a lot more user-friendly, the pool. And Architectural Enclosures out of Memphis did the pool enclosure for us, and we've really been pleased with it.
I really like it. It's the best I've seen. It reminds me of the enclosures that you see so much down in Florida. My brothers live down in Florida, so I see a lot of that.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
The trees that I treated for Bill kind of hang over this, so needless to say, he wanted to be sure to keep them healthy, didn't you?
Exactly. We really did. And you did a great job for us. We really appreciate it, Ed.
Well, I just love it that you're able to talk about your pool and your pool enclosure. You say that's now more of a lap pool too, isn't it? It's not don't have the deep end.
Right. We use that for kind of a volleyball pool, and we use this backyard a lot in the summertime, and right now it's getting to be a good season for having parties and playing water volleyball, and it's just a lot of fun.
Right. Now, I don't know if the viewers caught it earlier when you told what do you do? What is your occupation?
I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker Village Communities.
All right. Well, in the future, I'm liable to visit back with you, Bill, and we'll see how these trees are doing in another year or two.
Thank you so much for your help, Ed.
I want to talk a little bit about when a tree gets broke open and exposes a lot of what I call whitewood. This was a pine tree. A little over a year ago, it just split apart. Half of it come down. They managed to save the other half. Now, years ago, the practice used to be to paint this real heavy with a lap coating of asphalt-based paint. The practice now is not to do that, and I agree with it, because studies have shown that moisture gets behind that paint and causes a rot. So by leaving it just exposed, the nature turns this a color that looks almost similar, very similar, almost just like the color of the bark that's around it. So you'd have to be looking at this to really know it had a broke piece, and you can see where it's trying to compartmentalize and close over on each side. And that's with no aid whatsoever. That's just, they cut the piece off it broke, hauled it away, and just left what was left. So sometimes it's best to let nature do her thing instead of trying to help too much, because sometimes man can do more damage than they can fix. So in this case, let nature have her way. I constantly see a lot of squirrel feeders, and a lot of people like to feed the squirrels. Now, squirrels can be a problem sometimes. In Blyville, not too long ago, they was eating out the end part of the people's house. They asked me what it could do, and I said one thing, I'd cut my branches that was closest to the house so they couldn't jump easily and go to the house. The second thing, I would give them a good supply of food, nuts or corn or whatever it took, so they wouldn't be eating on my house. And the third thing, I'd get a mineral block, a little rabbit block that's, you've seen them, used to get them for rabbits, or you can get one of the big cow lick blocks that's got minerals in it. Place it somewhere in the yard where the rain won't dissolve it, and them squirrels will get mineral from that they're lacking, where they eat on your house or on the eve of the house. But one of those three things will generally get rid of the squirrels. You can always trap them and take them to another area. Your county agent will loan you a trap for that. But first try the little maintenance. Prune the limbs as closest to your house to keep them from getting on it. Put out some feed so they're not constantly chewing on stuff, and maybe try the mineral block, and enjoy your squirrels. I'm here with John Putt, and John, you was mentioning to me a little earlier about your willow tree I treated a while back. Why don't you tell our viewers what was going on?
Well, I got caught up to go to Iraq, and while I was gone, my wife wasn't able to take care of it like I take care of the yard. So when I got back, it had some holes in it, some ants crawling around on it. And I called you up, and you come out and looked at it, and you treated it, and you put some holes all around the roots, and you sprayed it for me, and it looks like it's brand new, like the way I used to take care of it.
There you go, and that's been a while ago too, hasn't it? A couple years?
It's been a couple years.
And what do you do now?
I work for the post office.
Okay, and you did your stint of duty over there, and we appreciate you too for doing that. And I'm glad to hear that where we treat somebody's trees, that they appreciate what we do too.
I still follow your instructions you give me, where you got to dig around all the perimeter of the tree and twice a year, and put the fertilizer in, and it's grown like it's never grown before.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we always give follow-up instructions to the client. That way, if they want to, they can take care of the tree in the future. And John has done that, and that's good, isn't it?
It's awesome. The follow-up care, the preventive care of it is, if I would have known this beforehand, it would have saved me some money. But a lot of people don't know what to do. You just go somewhere and buy a tree, and then you don't know everything about a tree. Right. So you're the man.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, John, for talking about your tree.
Thank you.
There's a lot of products made here in Arkansas. This old outhouse here is made out of cedar, and it weathers good, and they use extra small amount of cedar and that they don't use for big lumber to make little items like this and this well. Also, behind me here's a classic gazebo. It's made by the Mennonites over in the Jesup, Arkansas. Phil Mask, I think that's the owner that makes those, do an excellent job. And a lot of our wood products here are cut and used locally. And I appreciate that instead of them just being burned up and not used. And we got a lot of talented people across the state. And from time to time, we're going to be stopping talking to them about what they make and what they use that wood out of these trees for. But here's a couple of items here, 4 or 5, matter of fact, around me, that's made out of wood and quite impressive. I'm outside of Jonesboro at the home of Carol Ward. And Miss Ward, what made you call us in?
Well, this tree behind me is the biggest tree on the property, and I noticed that this big chunk of bark had fallen off, and I didn't want to lose the tree, so I called Dickey Tree Service to come see if he could help me.
Yes, ma'am, and it's easy to see what's going on behind it. The boars have been in there for a while, and she had me treat these trees as well as the other trees in the yard, and she's got some beautiful trees that we're going to walk around and talk about. What's your occupation, Miss Ward?
I am a Craighead County tax collector.
So everybody here knows you done, don't they?
Well, probably, yes, one way or another,
Yes, ma'am, but you sure have a pretty yard, and how old, do you know the age of this tree?
I don't know exactly how old, probably around 100 years, I would think. This property was one time farmland, and when my husband and I built this house 9 years ago, we cleared all this. It was all scrub and hedge and things of that nature, and so we cleared it all out and wanted to build our house next to this big tree because it provided such good shade.
Yes, ma'am, and it hangs over half of your house.
It does. In fact, I need to have some limbs trimmed there. They're beginning to brush against the house, but I sure did want to keep this tree.
Yes, ma'am. Well, if you'll let me, we'll move around the yard and we'll talk about some of your other trees.
Okay, that's great.
Miss Ward, you got a story about this limb that swings on?
Well, actually, when we were clearing this place, we didn't even notice this. It was so grown up, and when we got finished and got the house built, it was in the wintertime, and the next spring I told my husband, I said, well, looky there. I said, there's a straight limb out there. I believe we ought to put a swing on that, so that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, it's kind of an unusual limb, and it works just perfect for a swing.
It sure does. It's a good strong limb, too, looks like.
Oh, yeah, and we treated the tree so it's going to be strong
That's
for a
great.
while.
That's great. It's comfortable out here, nice and cool, even in the hot summertime.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Trees do make a difference.
Yes, they do.
Well, you got another unusual tree right on behind us here. We'll move around there and talk about that.
Okay, all right.
Miss Ward, we're here where we got a unusual piece of iron coming out of this tree. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I assure you it's not part of well, I guess it is part of the tree now, but at one time this was all farmland, and this is my family's home place, and apparently when they quit farming, they put this piece of equipment, whatever it is, part of an old plow or disc or something, in between these two trees, and the trees grew together, and now it's stuck.
Right. Yeah, it would do more damage than good to take it out. It's just best. It's a good conversation piece, isn't it?
It's in there when I think there's another one over in there in the brush somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but we found old Coke bottles and old beer cans and everything else when we were clearing this out. So we've found some unusual things in this yard, and that's the most unusual right there.
Right. People forget it was customary years ago that anytime you found an old horseshoe or anything, you threw it at the base of the tree, and that way it didn't hurt the farming equipment, and it just accumulated.
They must have forgotten that piece because it grew up right in the middle of that tree. So, of course, you can see there was two trees here, and down here at the base, it just grew together and swallowed that up in the process. So, I've had several people come by and say, oh, I can get that out of there for you, but I said, no, I believe we'll just leave it there because I think it might, like you said, hurt it more than it would do good to get it out. It's not hurting anything there.
It's not hurting anything, and you could cut it off here with a hacksaw or some kind of saw, but that would lose. Unusual. That's right. You can. It's not taking up that much space, I don't think.
No, it's not hurting anything, and the people that mow it, they know it's there, so I'm just going to leave it where it's at.
All right. But I want to thank you for taking the time to talk about your trees.
No problem, no problem. It's so pretty and cool out here, you know, and the trees, I hate to see a tree die, so I wanted to try to save them if I could.
Yes, ma'am. And we often visit back with the people where we treat trees after a year or so and see how the trees is doing and everything. And we'll do that with you if you don't care.
That's great. That's wonderful. I'll be happy to have you back.
Well, thank you. Here we have another twin fork tree. And it won't be too long for this side here grows against that side and vice versa, where it's going to push itself further apart. And we get strong winds like we've had of late, and one of these is going to bust over one way or other. To solve that problem, we drill through and put a 1-inch rod all the way through here, just below where the crotch area is showing there, tying these two together. And if you wait till it's already busted or start trying to splinter, it takes a couple of rods to do it. So if we catch it quick enough, it don't cost that much to fix it, and it can save your tree. So when you're out looking at your property, be aware of trees like this, and there is something we can do to keep you from losing them. I want to talk a little bit about Roundup around your trees, and the way Roundup's designed, it goes into the leaf part of a plant, travels down the plant into the root system and kills it. It can also do the same thing by going through the cambium if you get enough on it. It's very difficult to get enough on the cambium to get in there, but in some cases it does happen. For that reason, we recommend when you spray around a tree not to get as hardly any on the tree if you can keep from it. And that's pretty easily done because you're just shooting for the grass, the leaves of the grass there. And if you got roots protruding out of the ground from the tree, it's best to cover them with some topsoil or something as time goes by anyway. And that way you're not spraying the Roundup right on the roots. So your tree will be less stressed and you'll have a better kept yard if you just follow the practices. And if you'll read the information provided by the Roundup, it will tell you that also to, keep it on the vegetation part of the plant. And Roundup's a good product. Nothing wrong with it, and it makes your trees look good. I'm here in Jonesboro at the home of Ted Thomas, and Ted, won't you tell the viewers what's going on with your trees when you called us in?
Okay, well, last summer I had a big oak tree to die and had to have it removed. And then I called you this spring because I had another one that looked sick, and since we've lost it.
Yes, sir. The trees we're standing by here, Ted had me treat everything in the yard, and he had two that was kind of iffy. And one that he's talking about, it didn't go on to come out, did it?
No, sir. It went ahead and died.
Yes, sir. And with our guarantee there, was you happy with what happened with the guarantee?
You sprayed 2 more trees for me in my neighbor's yard. It was a shade that would shade my house.
Yes, sir. You get the benefit from those right around the back. And what had happened is it was dormant when we come to look at the trees, and it still showed, this particular tree that died, and we'll show it in a minute, still showed green at the bottom, didn't it, Ted?
Yes, sir. It sure did.
But the tree just gave it up, and he had built the home here. How long has this home been built?
2 years. Been here 2 years.
Right, and the shock of the construction damage hurt it, but also last year when you lost that other, and some guy just fly-by-nighter come by here and talked you into just spraying it, didn't he?
Yes, sir. He sprayed them with a high-pressure thing and just sprayed up and down the trunk of them. Not inside, just outside.
Right, and so he lost a little footing there on the tree. We might have been able to save that if we'd caught that quick enough. But anytime you got new construction, every single tree around your home is stressed somewhat, isn't it, Ted?
Yes, sir. That's what I understand.
Tell a little bit about where you come here from.
I was born and raised at Black Oak, Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
Went to school at Caraway.
At Caraway. We was talking, I've treated a lot of your friends' trees down there. You was in the farming business, wasn't you?
Yes, sir, for many years.
And how long you been here?
Well, I've been in Jonesboro about 25 years, but just here 2 years.
Okay, you certainly got a nice house, and we're going to move around here, and we'll go back here, and we'll talk about this one that died.
Okay.
This is the tree that was treated back in the winter that looked like it was going to come out, didn't it, Ted?
Yes, sir.
You can still see it. It's got green. I hope the camera will pick this up right here on this lower limb, but the whole top hadn't put out, and I recommended to Ted to go ahead and take it out because he's lost so much root system during this construction of his house that this will never make a viable tree, even if it sprouted out here 6 foot up or 8 foot up. It'd just be a stump. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And like we talked about earlier, when this tree, when he seen it wasn't going to come out, I treated the 2 behind you there that's hanging over your house. It's actually in your neighbor's yard, isn't it?
Yes, sir. And they're doing fine.
Yes, sir, and there was no charge for that. But what I want to emphasize is when you got construction, the sooner you treat a tree, the better. And I think Mr. Thomas here would agree that if we'd got to it a little sooner, we might have could have made a difference.
Yes, sir. When the other tree died last summer, this one went to dropping leaves early before frost, and I should have called you then.
Yes, sir. A tree, I tell people trees kind of tell you, and if it's doing something different, bark falling off or holes in it or something, there's generally something going on. But you got a beautiful yard and a beautiful house, and once this is out of here, it's just lucky it's not on a main shade tree for you, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's on the north side, so I won't lose a lot of shade from it.
Right. Well, we're going to keep the rest of them healthy, and I appreciate you taking time and talking to us, and we'll liable to stop by here in the future and see how these others are doing.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ted.
You betcha.
If you're ever out in your yard looking around and need a way to measure something, I got an easy tip for you. I've used it numerous times myself, and it's come in handy. If smaller items or even larger items as far as that goes, and you want to measure and don't have a tape measure, a piece of currency, dollar bill, $5 bill, it doesn't matter. They're 6 inches long, government standards. So you just put your money up there. You can see that tree measures about 10 inches, but if you want the true circumference of it, just go end to end all the way around it, multiply it by 6, it's 6 inches long. You know how many inches it is around a tree. So that'll be a tip for you if you're out needing a way to measure something and don't happen to have a tape measure readily available. You know, some trees have insect problems, some just have construction damage. Well, we can handle them both generally at the same time. I'm using a soil injection here, building a mold of chemicals all around the root ball. It gets translocated into the crown of the tree. It has a very long residual. Stays working for a year or better, killing insects as well as growing new feeder roots and increasing the canopy of the tree. 9 different chemicals is going in this at once. So there's so much we can do that we used to couldn't do, and it's in most cases it's cheaper than it used to be. And just name me just any one thing that's come down in price. Well, taking care of your trees have come down in price. Give us a call. You'll be surprised. We're the Tree Doctor, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for Tree Doctors today. Remember, if you have any questions for Ed, well, that's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is go to dickeytree.com. You can email him there or call the number below. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Tree Doctors.